So far of the videos I've made, the most disliked one is my Dragon Ball villains tier list. No one has expressed their disagreements in the comments. If you disagree with where I've placed people, let me know, but at least have a reason. We'll get this popping off because this is just general characters, not specifically villains. So we got a nice mix. If I barely know the character or they have little to no impact, if they're in like a few episodes of the show or just in one individual movie, you're not getting placed on the list because there's already plenty of characters to choose from. You're just not going to make the list. You're not important enough. I'm sorry, you're out, you're cut. If there's multiple versions of the same character, then I'll maybe rank them each individual one. Like I can already see like different Gokus with different hair. Probably not going to go crazy with the different Gokus. Depends on how crazy the list goes. Alright. First we got the Emperor. High A tier for now. Great villain. Adds a lot to Dragon Ball. And he pops up throughout the series. He's in Super, he's in GT, he's in Z a little bit. Shows up here and there to cause little problems for Goku. Nice to have a villain kind of recurring and still be up to no good. I believe this is May, his right hand man. She's cool too. A tier. Jiren, a really bland guy who's in a tournament and fights against Goku. Like, there's nothing else to him. We don't know much about him other than he fights Goku in the Tournament of Power, and he has a very simple character design. He likes to fight. Okay, Goku likes to fight, and Goku has a lot more going on about him. Goku, clear S tier. Vegeta, S tier. Vegeta above Goku. We all know it. Vegeta's just more of an actual person. We got Android 17. 17's alright. Definitely needs a lot more personality to him. I'll put him in C tier. Just above Jiren. This looks to be Gohan or Trunks. I'll wait to place him to see who he even is. We got Orange Piccolo from the movie Superhero. Piccolo as a character, probably even higher than Vegeta. Super interesting. He chooses to be a dad to Gohan. He takes on a lot of responsibility. He takes much more of a leadership role in the Z Fighters than anybody else does. He's got a more interesting, darker backstory than pretty much anybody else does, besides maybe Vegeta. I mean, obviously Vegeta got up to no good. Some serious level of villainy, but Vegeta was always kind of like more self-motivated in a way. Like I wouldn't say that Vegeta, even at his worst, like truly enjoyed just doing evil things. Like, he did evil things and chose to do evil things at times, but he just wants to be the most powerful, right? Just like Goku does. He just isn't as, maybe he isn't as good of a person in certain aspects. We have Pan. I mean, Pan was okay. B tier. Probably going to end up very low B tier. We have Giru. Definitely got a bit old to have like that Pokemon character, like that. Trying to have that Pikachu, that Hodor type character. They're just saying their own name. But he does some cool stuff that you would want out of a little robot dude in an anime. Like, probably low B tier as well. Trunks from GT. probably like the worst version of Trunks, but I'll put him down here with Pan. Like they don't butcher the Trunks character. They just don't. It's almost they could have done a better job of kind of leaning towards clearly some stuff has happened, and maybe they could have probably done a B plot in GT, and maybe made Trunks' character a little bit edgier or something, because future Trunks has had to deal with some crazy stuff, and like regular non-future Trunks, you don't have to have him be that harsh of a guy, but you could have him be a little bit of that. Obviously not to that extreme because it wouldn't make sense, but he still experienced some wild stuff regardless. Like he still fought Boo and all kinds of wild stuff. General Rildo, I believe this is from GT. Guy like turns into a planet. He's like part metal. Like he's like a metal guy. Like much more of an interesting character for the Dragon Ball franchise than we usually get. Solid A tier. Baby is a really cool idea for a villain. Possibly like one of the coolest villains across the entire franchise. I would put him just below the Emperor. Super 17 pretty much just is a different guy than 17, but incredibly underdeveloped and uninteresting. Like you take one of the least interesting characters across the franchise, Android 17, probably easily the least interesting of all the androids, and then you kind of bring him back and make him slightly like more villainous, and it's just a different dude who's a generic villain. Like people talk highly of that arc in GT, like it's the best arc in GT, but that's mostly to do with like other characters popping up and sort of the concept of the arc. Like I love in that, I believe it's that arc, I could be wrong, it's been a long time since I watched GT, but I like when Dende and Mr. Popo are like kind of like turn bad, like there's a bunch of people turning bad. That could have been like the baby arc. But yeah, Super 17 just isn't doing it. He's almost as bland as regular 17. I think this is another GT villain. Hopefully it doesn't go through the different... I forget exactly who this guy is, but I'll put him just below Jiren. Maybe realistically, if I could like remember who he is, he's probably higher, but the guy from the superhero movie, again, you're just in one movie, like you're just not that important, but at least you like got a little bit of character development. There's a little bit something to you. There's a reason to care about anything that happens to you. I'm not going to put more Gokus. Super Saiyan 4 Goku is like clearly would be S tier if I was to rank all of the Gokus across everything. I forget this guy's name, like Zamazu or whatever. I'd definitely put him above Rildo. Probably just below Baby. Really cool character. Korin is an S tier despite us getting like really small doses of him. Maybe not S tier, maybe A tier. Yeah, A tier is a little more fair. There's really not that much to him to deserve an S. although he does come into play quite a bit. Like he supplies the sensu beans. He helps get Goku to Kame, and like it's just he's a cool character. Tao. Tao is probably high A tier. I don't know if I could put him in S. He's just kind of on the verge of that next level. One of the best villains that there's been across the franchise. Launch never gets that much to do, but she's really cool in concept. Like, switches between being two different people, and one of them's just a lunatic. Like, solid character. Actually, I will move Tao up to S. Just everything you would want out of a villain and more. He's probably below Launch. They need to have a lot more Launch. Like, you have somebody who's like really kind of close with Roshi for quite a bit. Like, they need to really kind of cement Roshi's crew. That's kind of probably what a movie they should do next is, or really they should just make more of the show. Maybe this Dayama or whatever, the next show that's going to come out, the next anime. Maybe it'll focus on that and kind of cement this crew and develop this crew, because you got like Puar and Oolong who can they can transform into anything. They can transform into other people. That's crazy. Like, these absolute lunatics that hang out with Roshi, it just lends itself to so much potential storyline that would be nice to see, instead of just Goku finds another transformation. We got King Piccolo. Definitely cooler than Tao. More villainous. He's a cooler villain than Tao, but as a character, not really. Kind of cartoonish. Kind of. Yeah, he's just not as much of a character as these other characters. Definitely not like, the Piccolo we know and love. The Crane Hermit, definitely up there too. He's kind of also like a little bit generic, little too villainous at times. Krillin. He's one of the, he's kind of like what Vegeta is to Goku early on. And then his character kind of becomes this support system for Goku. We could use more Krillin. Krillin, I feel like maybe that's what the movie should be that they make, is Krillin and Roshi and the guys who stay on Earth for the most part crew. Krillin definitely has to be up here for sure, S tier. He's Goku's best friend. He starts out as Goku's rival. Just very nice to see him throughout the franchise, and he gets a lot to do. That's gonna boost any character if they're just there. Raditz and Nappa, they need to bring those guys back. Because think about how like villainous somebody like Vegeta has been. How could it possibly be a risk to bring Raditz and Nappa back, right? Like, Raditz is Goku's brother. If Vegeta can be reformed, then Nappa and Raditz can be reformed, and they're Saiyans, right? Like, they have the potential to probably not really ever make it anywhere near Vegeta or Goku where they're currently at, but maybe their maximum potential is like a Super Saiyan 2, right? And I feel like these guys were so like subservient to Vegeta. If they were brought back, they would still be exactly that way. And now that Vegeta's a good guy, there's just a lot you could do there, like plot wise, with those characters, and you could do. It was just nice to see them. Like everyone has talked about, every fan of this franchise talks about what would happen when a bald guy goes Super Saiyan. What would happen when a guy whose hair is like twice the size of his entire body goes Super Saiyan? We want to see it. We want to know. It's one of the biggest questions we have. Oolong is awesome. He's better than Korin. Top of A tier. Transforms into stuff. He's a villain for a while. Comes around. Definitely could use more Oolong. Nappa. He's more interesting than Raditz. I'll put these guys above Rildo. Vegeta, I'm not going to place him again. I'm not going to do the various forms. Or the Great Apes. King Kai loves to tell jokes. Kind of weird to have him in a lot of ways as a character, as this like demigod who's like not a demigod and all. Hard to place him. I'll put him right above Korin. He just gets so much screen time and does so much. I mean, he's King Kai. He's epic. Yeah, Jirobe. I want to put him next to Korin. And I think I will. I think there's definitely mystery. There's underdeveloped Yajirobes. There's something more about him. Something more going on. Oh man, we have the Easter Bunny, who gets in conflict with Goku. Child Goku, spoiler alert, he takes the Easter Bunny and his goons, uses his power pole, and carries them very rapidly to the moon, and leaves them there. And Goku just goes back to Earth. He like detracts his power pole and rides it back to Earth, which is a crazy power feat that goes overlooked. Because even child Goku is like breathing in space. Granted, the Easter Bunny and his goons breathe in space because they get doomed to live on the moon and create peeps, like the candy peeps, those marshmallow candies. That's what happens to the Easter Bunny. A little insane. He's a villain and he gets like sentenced to make peeps on the moon for the rest of his life by Goku. Just a wild thing to happen. Dodoria. Frieza's one of Frieza's top goons. He's not as interesting as the Saiyans or Rildo, but he's alright. He stands out as one of Frieza's goons. The Cybermen. Cybermen were kind of bland. They're kind of cool. Like the fact that it was more so that the Z Fighters had adversaries who they had to put a lot of effort into defeating that made the Cybermen interesting, but they themselves not very interesting. Zarbon, not as good as Dodoria. I believe this is Nail. The picture does not show his head. Ends up, or he might be that other guy, but I think it's Nail who ends up fusing with Piccolo on a permanent basis. Yeah, Piccolo has like multiple people inside of him, like genuinely. Instead of alternate personalities, they're just different people, which may be why he spends so much time meditating and comes up with actual like good solutions and leadership stuff. It's just that Goku is in a way the leader of the group too, and Goku's gonna do what Goku wants to do. But Nail was solid. Not enough to really stand out though. Dende was kind of bland too, but nothing wrong with them. I think I'll move both of them down to B tier, along with Frieza's goons. And probably Rildo, to be fair. Guru, the Elder Namekian. Really cool that the Namekian Dragon Balls were more powerful. I'll put him with the other Namekians. I mean, he's definitely more interesting than them, but not by a ton. The problem with the Frieza arc that kind of makes some of these characters not stand out is that it's like this epic arc that there's so much build up to. It's hard for anybody to really stand out when a lot of it is a build up to the final battle between Frieza and Goku. Frieza gets tons of development. Could have been a lot more dynamic of a character, or we could get more like, yeah, there just could be more like meat on the bone. As a character, maybe a little over the top with the villainy. I'd say just below Tao. As a character, obviously epic villain, but as a character could use more, could use work. Just Tao's a little bit more interesting. This is Raccoon from the Ginyu Force. Ginyu Force is alright. Like they all have their own specific power, like unique power. And that's cool. This guy stops time. I believe this guy's like really fast. Captain Ginyu can like change places with people and has a lot more like blasts and stuff. Puar, I want to put Puar with Oolong, but Puar is kind of basic, kind of good guy, basic sort of character, whereas Oolong is funny and has more humanity to him. Nothing against Puar. You're just not. You're just no Oolong. That's probably a good thing for you. Really weird to talk to you as if you're a person. Final form Frieza. I'm just not going to place these different forms of Frieza. First form is the coolest. Frieza's dad, like, you're there for like what, one episode, you get clapped by Trunks. You're there to get to job out to Trunks. Okay, like, you got Frieza into the business. Okay, Frieza's dad. Yeah, I can't rank Frieza's dad higher. It's a cool character, cool design, but nothing beyond that. Future Trunks.
Winter comes sooner than you think. Switch to winter tires for better traction.
Future Trunks is pretty darn cool. Lots of backstory. I'll put him right below Baby. Not that Baby is like a super not that Baby has like that much backstory, or like a backstory that's really all that interesting. It's more like, oh, you're just a Tuffle or whatever. Like Trunks obviously gets like way more development to his backstory, and then he's doing all this time travel stuff. He's doing cooler stuff. It's just not that. Again, he's kind of just a very basic good guy. Giro. Easy S tier. I mean, he made all the androids. He He made Cell. He made himself into an android. A lot going on. A lot ends up unanswered. A driving force behind the scenes throughout the entire series. Like, there's still androids in the series. I'll put him above Launch. Android 19, just, you may as well not even be on the list. You're not important. You're cool, but you like don't talk. You're there to fight. Android 16 probably is kind of has similar issues, but he at least talks, and he's Dr. Giro's son. I like him quite a bit, but we know so little about him and his motivations, and I think I can put him B tier, and that's being generous. Definitely a character that deserves to come back, get some actual development, and get things rolling with them. Let's go on to Yamcha. He kind of ends up just quitting being a Z fighter and like becomes a professional baseball player and just kind of hangs out with Roshi on occasion. He shows up when he's needed, but he's rarely needed. He starts out being important, but then just becomes ever less important. Like, he dates Bulma early on, but then she ends up with Vegeta. I feel like they could do something with that dynamic. Like, it'd be really funny if like, say Vegeta's training off with like Beerus and Goku and stuff, and Bulma needs a date, right? To some event, some work event, because she like owns this epically huge company. She's the richest person on the planet. Is she gonna show up with no plus one? Vegeta ain't showing up, so it'd be funny if like her only choice is Yamcha, and then the weird like conflict character development that could be had. We need more of that fun stuff. But Yamcha does so much early on. He I think it's safe to place him there actually, right, with Poir. Roshi. Clear S tier. Catalyst to practically the entire development of Goku. Like, in so many ways, he's Goku's dad without actually being Goku's dad at all. Higher than Gero. Is he higher than Krillin, though? Yeah, he is. Is he higher than Goku? I think he is. Is he higher than Vegeta? Vegeta... I mean, Goku does a lot more in the series. But as a character, there's just more to Roshi. I think I gotta put him above Vegeta. All three of my top three in here are pretty complex people, a lot going on. They've been through a lot. We'll see how other people rank. We'll keep going. Android 18. Possibly the coolest android. Like, she kicks butt. But not that much to her besides that, right? She turns good, but it almost seems out of like boredom, out of wanting a change of pace. But somebody who's like an android, you think they'd have like all these existential issues. The problem with ranking these people is some of them aren't even like people, and like there's so much to them that never gets explored. I think I'll place her there in A tier. Alright, TN. Definitely not S tier. I wouldn't put him at Yamcha's level. Yamcha just has way more to do in the storyline and is interesting. He has like other motivations. Whereas TN's a guy who likes fighting, wants to be stronger than Goku, then wants to work with Goku to help protect everybody. I think bottom of A tier is very appropriate for TN. Sad, but it's true. Pycon, we didn't get enough of you. You deserved better. Storyline wise, I gotta put you below the Namekians. We'll grab Gohan. We get a lot of the struggle between like what his mom wants him to be and what his dad wants him to be. I'll put him above Launch. He's not as complex as somebody like Giro, despite most people's favorite aspects of the franchise being centered around Gohan. That still doesn't make him like an interesting character. And if it's just a character tier list, I don't know how else to rank it besides that. Cell, cool villain. We don't entirely understand his motivations. He obviously has a pretty interesting development. Like, we basically see him be born and his entire progression from birth, which is cool, but it's very short. Yeah, I'll leave him bottom of A tier because of that exact fact. There just isn't enough to him. There isn't a reason for there to be anything to him. He basically like isn't a person and almost isn't a character. Videl. Videl's pretty cool. Hercule's daughter. We could probably use more development between her and Hercule. We would find out more about both of them. But like Hercule just comes in. He comes in play so much throughout the series, which I'll talk about when I get to him on this list, which he better be on this list because he is critical to the franchise. Videl, we just didn't get enough of you. I'll put you right above Cell. Oh yeah, there he is, Hercule. Insecure. Tough guy, like probably the strongest human on the planet. Besides maybe Videl. Obviously Krillin, Yamcha, Tien, Oob, of course, but beyond that, like Mr. Satan here is one of the strongest people. He's just up against these people who have who can fly, who can shoot energy blasts, who can do all kinds of supernatural stuff. So it's really like completely unfair. But the character himself being insecure, being someone who cheats, being someone who lies, being somebody who is genuinely a good guy, who ends up having this really, who really saves the day, right? Like he befriends Majin Buu, totally stopping Majin Buu's rampage of turning people into food and consuming them. Like he literally gets them calmed down to where they're living in a house, and he's like roommates with Boo, and they're hanging out and they have a dog until somebody comes along and destroys the dog, which is crazy. Then but then Hercule then goes on to charge the spirit bomb that defeats Boo, right? Like he channels from King Kai's powers to communicate to like everybody in the universe, like, hey, lend your strength, lend your power, we need you. Without that, the people of Earth, like he's the champion of Earth, right? Like the people on Earth, they barely know who Goku is, if at all. Like they don't, these other people like Roshi, Krillin, like maybe they know who Yamcha is because Yamcha's a famous baseball player, but they don't know who like Roshi is. They don't know who Goku is. They don't know who Vegeta is, right? Like they're not like these. None of them are anywhere near the status that Hercule is. Maybe like Bulma is, but Bulma wasn't available, right? Like even then, the whole series gives the impression that Hercule is like this celebrity. So yeah, Bulma's like the richest person on Earth, but she's not a celebrity, right? Like maybe she acts like it, but she's not. Whereas Hercule genuinely is, right? Like, so that comes into play. Him being the most respected person on the planet, the most well-known person, that again saves the day, and he results in him twice defeating Boo, which is crazy. So there's just so much to him. I think he has to be S tier. He's like, I would even consider putting him higher than like Krillin. Maybe not higher than Goku, but maybe higher than Krillin. We just don't get as much of him as we do Krillin. Looking at the series as at its entirety. Goten and Kid Trunks. They're okay. I'll put them above Videl, below Tien. Oob, we need way more of you. We get plenty of you in GT, but we need way more of you. One of the coolest moments across the entire franchise is when Oob says at the end of GT that he would like to fuse with Gohan. Because what would happen when that happens? They have wildly different powers. It'd be cool to see people who actually have different powers fusing and what the result would be. Especially, that's like, it's like Majub who says that, the combination of Boo and Oob, which I think you need to keep those characters separated. Especially having like both characters, if they were to be in a, I assume whatever the next anime show will be is going to continue where like the super like manga is, develop some of those storylines, so it's not like it's going to jump to like after GT events, which I would even kind of be okay with. It'd be nice to see those characters do a like huge time jump forward, and then we'd just be able to see like older versions of the characters instead of the like timeline of the characters progressing so slowly as it is. Oob though, you just don't get the screen time that you need. You're one of the coolest characters to theorize about, especially the events that happen at the end of Dragon Ball Z is very important. In the beginning of GT, Because at the end of Z, the beginning of GT, what happens is Goku meets Oob. They go to the time chamber and they train for 7 years of like Earth time, of outside of the chamber time, which is equal to 2,557 years in the time chamber. So Goku and Oob are training together for 2,557 years. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. Like, they will come out of that time chamber so much more powerful than anybody could even imagine. And I have this theory that Vegeta actually has his own time chamber outside of the time chamber. Like, somehow Bulma made one, and that's how he keeps up with Goku and GT. Right? Because how else could he possibly keep up with Goku? Like, that's insane. Goku comes out of that time chamber to keep up with him when he's been training for over 2,500 years in there. It's impossible unless you can make your own time chamber, which, I mean, Bulma made a time machine. Oob, though, you're more potential than you are anything else. I'll put you below 16. Chaozu. I am not a Chaozu fan. I'm sorry. He just doesn't ultimately... He has cool moments, but he's kind of just a sidekick. Bibbidi or Bobbidi. Cool idea for a character. We just needed more of him. I'll put him below the Namekians. Deborah, really cool, like outrageously cool. I doubt I could put him above Gohan because there's not enough of him, but he's like actual Satan. He's the king of the underworld. He is way stronger than Cell, and he is about to do so much destruction before he just sadly and abruptly gets outclassed by Boo, which is just such a waste. Such an absolute waste. Supreme Kai and Kibito. Kibito is like cool in concept. He's like he should have been like a Whis type character, but he's just not. He just falls flat. Supreme Kai. He's alright, but he just feels like this, like a god. If Dende was a god. That's what he is. He's just god form of Dende. And we just get more Dende than we get Supreme Kai. Majin Buu. The best Majin Buu stuff is his interactions with Beerus. And I kind of don't like the where they're probably drawing inspiration from his character traits. If you know what I mean, I think you can pick up on what I'm putting down there. So I got to put him in B tier. He's kind of just this like force of nature, which is cool in a way. He's just a hungry guy who likes candy and doesn't understand the implications of turning people into candy and eating them, or doesn't necessarily care. I'll do Kid Buu. I'll skip the like other versions of Buu. Kid Buu's okay. He's just right there with Majin Buu. It's just not as cool as Majin Buu. He's just a bad dude. I think I gotta actually put him lower, because at least Majin Buu ends up doing some entertaining stuff as he is like at least kind of a good guy. Boo just kind of stinks. Just kind of stinks bad when you think about it. I mean, he's better than the Cybermen. I think I gotta move the Cybermen down. What are they doing in B tier? Probably D tier. I mean, they're cool, but there's nothing to them. Maybe I would move these guys a little bit. I'm gonna move Chaozu just above Oob. A lot on here that are just duplicates, different levels of Saiyan. Kami. I'll put him up here with Korin, Yajirobe. Mr. Popo. Mr. Popo has more mystery. We learn less about him, but in some ways that's really cool. Like he just has a cool way about him, and there's so much more to be developed. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. With Mr. Popo, it totally works. Guys from the movies, not too concerned about them. Beerus is awesome. He's like afraid of Goku, but he's constantly trying to make Goku afraid of him, and sometimes it kind of works. Like Goku could definitely sense something in him, but Goku is not afraid of him, and more often Beerus is afraid of Goku. I'd put Beerus right around Frieza, probably even higher than Frieza. Just a really cool character overall. We have alternate universe Whis. Pretty cool. Doesn't get to do enough to really matter is the issue. So I'd say top of C tier. Maybe once we get to know you, you'll do something worthwhile. Hit from Super. Hit's okay, bland. I mean, I'm not talking like Jiren levels of bland, like just nothing to you. Hit is a million times more interesting than Jiren, but again, not really all that developed. At least Hit has like motivations and a personality, whereas Jiren has none of that. We got the overweight Destroyer God who is rivals with Beerus. I think it's like Chumba or something, or Champa, or it's probably Champa. He's cooler than Hit. Nice to give Beerus like this weird rivalry. Like Beerus is like the coolest thing to come out of Super. So much else doesn't work. I kind of want to put the Great Saiyaman, but I'm not going to. Zenu's pretty bland. It's just like, oh, I'm a god, but I'm a child. I might destroy you, I might not. As bland as Jiren. At least likes to have fun. At least is like friendly with Goku. At least there's a tiny, like, you know, we're talking about practically nothing. Chi-Chi does some cool stuff in Dragon Ball, the original series. She enters a tournament and fights Goku. One of the cooler tournament fights for sure. Mostly just due to her raw anger and Goku's raw confusion. Chi-Chi leaves a lot to be desired in terms of development. I feel like she's often forgotten about as a character, as the main character often forgets about her. Omega Shenron. Oh my god. Like, for like the final villain, like it almost makes sense. Like I could see what they were going for. They just wasted so much time. They just didn't have the episodes to develop this guy. They just spent too much time getting to him. Like there's no reason to care that much about him. He looks really cool. He should probably have like 20 more powers than what he has. There should be more. He should be way more dynamic. Like he has a variety of powers, but it's like he should be pulling out some truly crazy stuff. I don't understand how him as a concept can even be somebody who can be beaten even by Goku. Like they needed to make him make a little bit more sense. I'll put him above Kibito, but the Easter Bunny's more interesting as a villain in reality. Shenron. Dragon who grants wishes. He has a sense of humor. I'll put him low, bottom of B tier, I guess. Another alternative to Whis. I'm not seeing Whis on here. Or this is Whis. Whis is as cool as Beerus. Possibly cooler. There's just so much more to him. First, like, I don't care that he's stronger than Beerus. Beerus has more of those comedy moments, and they kind of like work off each other, but Whis having so much more knowledge and control. Just these guys just carry Super on their back. Like Golden Frieza. Who cares about Golden Frieza or anything else that's really going on in Super? Broly. So there's two Brolys here. I don't know. I'm gonna consider them as two separate people. I'm gonna place the one from the Dragon Ball Z movies, the legendary Broly. Just a nothing character. Like it's cool. He's a legendary Super Saiyan, but he doesn't talk. He doesn't really do anything besides, hey, I want to beat up these other Saiyans. I gotta put him like top of C tier. Not enough meat on that bone for sure, no question. Develop him more. You can give him a plot line. Let's say this is Broly from the superhero movie and the Broly movie, the Dragon Ball Super movies, the recent stuff. Way more interesting than the one from the Dragon Ball Z movies. I'd easily put him just below Tien. Again, we've only gotten bits and pieces of Broly. Who knows what they'll do with him. Not too sure who else on here is even important enough. Like, I'm not going to put First Form Cell. Yeah, First Form Cell is cooler looking than the other cells, but it's not like there's a ton of character there. Bulma. Clearly S tier. Absolutely iconic. People love dressing up as her. She's just critical throughout the franchise. She invented the Dragon Radar. I forget if she invented the capsules, but she invents like these different spacecraft, these different aircraft. She invents a time machine. Like, not just does future Bulma invent a time machine, but she invents a time machine in like the current time of the series. That's wild. Like, just brilliant. She's the richest person on Earth because she's that successful. Her friends are like these crazy aliens who like fight gods. I gotta put her above Krillin. I really gotta put her above Goku. Probably not the Vegeta, Roshi, Piccolo level, but yeah, number 4. Absolutely critical character. Often who we see the series through, right? Especially the original Dragon Ball series, where Goku is kind of just like, he's this fighter. He wants to train, he wants to get stronger. Whereas Bulma's more of like just a human who, yeah, she just wants to get rich and like be famous and do such and such things, but she's a lot more grounded and more of a human, more of a character. She's awesome. She's Bulma. This is my Dragon Ball characters tier list. Hope you like it. I want to make more characters to do, more lists to do with this franchise, but not sure what other subject matter there is to touch on. A lot of these lists just have enormous, ridiculous amounts of characters in all their different forms, and it's hard to rate those against each other. And it's hard to rate these characters like these newer Saiyans from Super who are in like one episode and we know nothing about. Hope you like it. Have a nice day.